actually am not quite sure what the video is going to show, but the one thing I know for sure about it is that everything that you see on there is going to be in a browser. So we create a wide variety of games. Almost every single one of them is playable in a browser, but I don't think once you see them that you'd consider them to be what you'd normally call a browser game.
We are Prodigy.
Hopefully you noticed in there's a couple of there's the Mummy, there's Battlestar Galactica, so there's some big names in there. So maybe Matt, you could just talk a little bit about what the browser, what you're doing with it, why you're using it. That
Sure,
sort of thing.
I'd be happy to. So the major reason for us using the browser is not because we create what you'd call stereotypical browser games, but it provides what we consider to be the lowest threshold to entry. I mean, especially with free-to-play, one of the secrets is jamming as many users as you possibly can into your game, and the easier you make it for users to experience your game, the more people you're going to have playing, and therefore the more people you're going to have hopefully paying for it. And so that's really the whole focus, but we actually have to try and break the mold, and in some games, like Battlestar Galactica, very few of our players play it with the browser window around the game experience. So it's sort of a unique portion of the browser game spectrum.
So in fact, you're kind of like you're not like a sort of a Facebook game. On the other hand, you're not like a console game. You're somewhere kind of in the middle ground there, right?
It's true, yeah. I mean, the games that we have, we do have some games primarily made in our Hamburg office that would be more similar to what you might see on Facebook, and that we do have a farming game, and it does quite well, and we have a basic 2D space fighting game. But what we're trying to do in San Francisco is what we call Triple-A games in a browser, and that what we mean by Triple-A, because everyone has their own definition, is the very best game that you can possibly jam into a browser and play in that space. And again, the focus on the gameplay can be quite diverse. We're trying to appeal to a wide variety of gamers, but the big thing is to make it as accessible to as many players as we possibly can, and we find the browser is the best way to do that.
Cool. You're in that middle ground. What do there's so on the one hand of that scale, you've got sort of people who are, a team of 3 people who can build like a mobile app or a Facebook game in a few months, and then on the far end there's, console games which are, tens of millions of dollars.
Or big MMOs with, hundreds of people.
Right.
Yeah, we do hit kind of an unusual middle ground, I would say, in that Bigpoint's philosophy is we'd rather have 5 $1 million games in the market than 1 $5 million game. So what we try to do is put a lot of lines in the water, and then once we get them out there, if we get a response from the players that show that they like it, and even more importantly, that they like it enough to pay us money for it, we'll reinforce success. So what might start out as a team of 10 or 15 or 20 could quite easily grow to 30 or even 40 people after the game goes commercial, after we start to see that the game is doing well. The good part about this is it allows us to take more chances because we only have, say, maybe $1 million or $1.5 million at risk rather than 5 million. So we can try a few different things and then see which one pans out best. I mean, when you develop a game, hopefully you get it, especially a game in a box, hopefully you get it 70 or 80% of the way right. Inevitably, there are things that you think the players are going to love and they end up not caring about, and then there are a couple of throwaways that they end up loving to death. When we start with a minimum viable product, we put our best foot forward in things that we hope the players will love, but then we let them take us the rest of the way. We ask them to vote, sometimes with their wallets, on which things they like best, which things they want to see more of. So when we build out the rest of the team to reinforce success, we actually start to do the things that the players tell us they want more of. The goal is really to create software as a service and to spend your time doing the things the players tell you they want, because it is an entertainment service. It isn't our vision entirely of what's entertaining. It's what the players tell us they want.
So that sounds very much like, although you're doing something that kind of looks like, is heading towards that sort of Triple-A console kind of thing, but on the other hand, everything you've just said then sounds like you could be working on a Facebook game in terms of so your games are free to play and stuff generally. Do you want to just talk about the business model there?
Yeah, sure. All of our games are free to play. And so, it's really important to us that the players like what they're playing. It isn't so much ego-driven as metrics-driven, and we interact with the players. We ask them to tell us which things they like best and why, and what they want more of and what they want to see less of. And again, by holding off on building the development team until we know which way the game is trending, we allow ourselves to retain the flexibility to take the game where it needs to go. I mean, it doesn't mean that it's cheaper. It just means that your first steps are cheaper so that you can cast a wider net and take more chances. As I said, if a game is successful, something like Battlestar, it started out, as an external product with 10 or so people, and now we have close to 30 people on it and 8.6 million players in it. So as we continue to develop the game, it picks up speed. It's like a snowball racing downhill. Did
Cool.
that answer your question?
Yeah. No, that's yeah. So I mean, it just again, harping on the middle ground theme, but very interesting. So you're borrowing some stuff from the sort of the social mobile world, and you're also getting a whole bunch of stuff from the console world.
Well,
I
guess a little bit. I mean, one of the things that we're trying to expand our games more is to create more of a 24/7 game experience where players may not be able to participate in the whole game on their mobile devices, but at least a portion of the game, so that they can always feel connected to their buddies and other parts of the gaming community. But I mean, what we end up doing is building something that's a fairly traditional game, right? I mean, Battlestar Galactica is basically a hardcore space combat game. It's a flight sim, so it's sort of hardcore by definition there. And again, it just happens to be in a browser. So we're more in the browser for us is really not a defining object. It's just a delivery mechanism.
Cool. Okay. I wonder if you mentioned something to me earlier about being on looking to the future, like your sort of plans in terms of cross-platform sort of stuff.
Sure.
I mean, this might be things you're not doing yet, but what are you thinking of doing?
We have, I mean, as I touched on a little bit earlier, one of the things that we want to do is allow the player, if they want to participate in some way with the game, regardless of where they are or what else they might be doing. We don't want to force them to do that, but it's something that we need to allow our players to do if they want to. So we have experimented with ways for players with one of our farming games to perhaps harvest crops or to gain special sets of items through a mobile phone application. In the future, we might do things like, again, for Battlestar, which is, I harp on that because it's one of our big San Francisco titles, to see what their guild mates are doing, what their wing mates are doing, or which sectors might have hot action so they know when they need to go to their laptop or to their desktop to log in. So again, allowing them to participate in some way, short of the full game experience, but to be able to take the game with them in some form wherever they go. And I think that's a really important thing. It isn't the case that we want to force them to do it, but for those players that want to participate in that and feel like they're always attached to their buddies in the community, I think it's important to allow them to do that. So that is an area that we're going to be pushing more into alongside more traditional, just straight mobile games. The question was, what are some of the ways or the primary ways that we harvest information from our players? You know, that's a really good question. I wouldn't say that we have a perfect solution to that. I mean, we use the forums, but the forums are a bit skewed in that only a fraction of your players will post on it and a slightly larger fraction will read it. So that we use that as one place to start. We also reach out to guild leaders in the community who also coincidentally tend to be high spenders. They tend to be the whales as well, so we want to listen to the things that they like. We also run surveys. We run live chats. So we try to hit as many different parts of the spectrum as we can and assemble the data that we get from that into a more cohesive picture. So I wouldn't say there's a single right answer there, at least not yet.
We got any more?
I guess one other thing, we are heavily data-driven, but that shows you what you're doing now. It doesn't necessarily show you what you should be doing in the future. So,
do they use a cloud service? Is that the question? Technical architecture.
We use servers spaced out around the globe. So we have our own servers. We generally buy them because we have enough games where it makes sense that we can shift them around. So we have generally East and West Coast, and then a couple of spots in Europe as well. But no special affiliation with the cloud.
So thanks very
All right,
much, Matt.
Thanks. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.